everyone, I'm Jocelyn, and I am grateful you're here. You're listening to the Starting with Gratitude podcast. This is a safe space intended to host meaningful conversations exploring all topics of the human experience. Every conversation starts with gratitude and remains rooted in gratitude. After you listen, make sure to join the community by subscribing and sharing. I am so happy you have joined us.
Hello, beautiful podcast community. It's your girl, your host, Jocelyn, and I am so excited to get into this conversation we're about to have because we are going to talk about our feelings, and not just about our feelings, but feeling our feelings. Yes, feelings. We love them when they're good. We hate them when they're bad. But here's the thing, y'all. No emotion is necessarily wrong to feel. I'm going to say that again. No emotion is wrong to feel. Now, the way in which we consciously or subconsciously choose to respond to our emotions is another thing. But let me tell you why I am so grateful I allow myself to feel and feel deeply. Before I get into this, I want to humbly bring up ratings and reviews for this podcast. My friends, if you listen to Starting with Gratitude on Apple Podcasts, I ask that you please drop a rating and drop a review. It's super quick, super easy. Just head over to Apple Podcasts, go to the Starting with Gratitude page, scroll down, and you will find the ratings and review box waiting for you to share your thoughts. Your reviews not only serve as affirmations for me, which, by the way, those of you who have already shared a review, thank you so much for taking the time to do so and for sharing your thoughts with me. It's so heartwarming for me to read your reviews, but your reviews also serve as affirmations for future sponsors and future listeners who are curious about joining in on our growing community. So I would appreciate it so much. And I thank you in advance for writing a review and sharing your thoughts on this podcast. Now, back to feeling. One of the main reasons why I am so grateful to feel my feelings is because I now see emotions as a gift this human experience grants us. I mean, think about it. Could you feel without your body? When I came to this realization and to this reflection and the fact that this life is temporary, my relationship with feeling my emotions shifted from not wanting to feel certain emotions to, in a way, honoring any emotions that arise because, again, it's all temporary. This is why feeling, honestly, makes me feel so alive. Heartbreak, grief, falling in love, feeling motivated, tiredness, frustration, jealousy, etc. are all proof that we are human and we are alive and we are essentially emotional bodies. Another reason why I'm so grateful I allow myself to feel is because simply not allowing myself to feel does me and us a disservice. Not only am I missing out on a huge aspect of this human experience that we only get once in a lifetime, once in this body that we have now, but I am also harming this one body that I have. Emotions are energy in motion. When we feel our emotions, we allow them to pass through, to come and go. When we suppress our emotions by ignoring them, by pretending we don't have them, etc., we're not allowing the energy of that emotion to flow. We create blockages within our system, and we do this long enough or with one intense emotion that remains stored in our bodies. And that energy eventually manifests into sickness, physical sickness, mental sickness, spiritual sickness, all that. I tweeted once that feeling your feelings is better than pretending you don't have them. And this is so true, y'all, regardless of what that feeling is. If it's a feeling you wish you didn't have, I promise you that suppressing it in any way does not make it go away. It does not do what you think it does. In fact, suppressing your emotion, again, by ignoring it in any way, is actually you choosing to hold on to it. I'm going to say that again. You choosing to suppress an emotion is actually you choosing to hold onto it. I find it so wild how we've integrated this habit as a collective of suppressing our emotions, because we really have been out here thinking that's a solution or that's a proper way to quote unquote get rid of any particular emotion. We've gotten so accustomed to suppressing how we feel that the thought, even just the thought of feeling our feelings, of allowing ourselves to feel our emotions that arise, seem counterintuitive. That's how out of touch we have become with allowing ourselves to feel our feelings, to really give into this aspect that comes with this human experience. We are now at a point where we think that if we allow ourselves to feel our feelings, it's counterintuitive. We've gotten to the point where we think that if we allow ourselves to feel an emotion like anger, for example, we will cultivate and feel more anger. And, maybe that's true for a moment. And again, yes, it does matter how we choose to respond to our emotions when we feel them, which, as I've said and as I've been saying, our response for generations has primarily been to suppress emotions like anger, which is partly why there's so much toxic masculinity in the air. But the truth is, y'all, is that when we choose not to suppress our anger, and when we choose to feel that emotion, we are allowing that feeling to come and go, to remain in motion, to be in flow. We allow it to express itself and to be temporary. When has you choosing to ignore any particular feeling that you're feeling actually made that feeling go away? Think about it. It might go away, in that moment, but over time, we see how suppressing our emotions really affect us. And I think we're becoming more aware of this now. And I do want to share one particular experience that I'll never forget, where I became very consciously aware of how not only suppressing my emotions, but ignoring my instincts really affects my body, and how everything really is interconnected, our mind with our body, and our body with our spirit, and our spirit with our mind, and everything is really, really interconnected. And again, because we do have an emotional body in its essence, when we don't have that healthy relationship with our emotions, we essentially are creating bad health for our bodies. The experience that I want to share with you that's very personal, but also just very real and really served as an awakening for me of how interconnected everything is, our mind, our body, our spirit, and served as an example of how suppressing our emotions manifests into physical illness, is when I was in a very toxic relationship with a man who gaslit me so much to where I became very, very out of touch with myself. I questioned myself so much. I lost trust in myself, and I felt so deeply, and I felt so much in this relationship, but didn't feel safe to express my emotions in this relationships and also questioned what I was feeling because I was gaslit in this relationship, to the point where it eventually manifested kidney stones. And, again, I'm sharing this experience very briefly. There's so much that goes into it. And I do want to add that this not only is an example of how suppressing our emotions manifests into physical illness, but this really also served as a very clear example for me of how ignoring my intuition also manifests into physical illness. Because essentially, when we ignore our intuition, we are ignoring our emotions, because our intuition is like a gut feeling. And when we ignore that, so many times it will manifest into some sort of blockage, some sort of stagnancy. And for me, in this situation, it manifested as kidney stones. Now, I've had kidney stones twice in my life, and they were pretty back to back. The first round of kidney stones was in the winter. And I know that that manifested from me neglecting my body more so than my emotions, because I was working out a lot at the time and I wasn't properly hydrating myself. I was intaking powdered protein, which I now know my body does not like. But then, the following summer in that next year, I got my second round of kidney stones. And I know intuitively and wholeheartedly that those kidney stones manifested from immense stress and, these very intense emotions that I was keeping stored and stagnant and blocked in my body. And I do want to note that not only was I storing my own emotions in my body, but I was also taking on the emotions of my toxic partner at the time. And, he also very much so did not have a healthy relationship with his emotions and how he responded to his emotions, and very much so laid that onto me. And, me not having the conscious awareness and tools that I have now at the time, I took it all on and I stored that within me. And that manifested into kidney stones. And I now, looking back, I'm just so grateful, honestly, for that experience, as incredibly painful as it was, because again, it really awakened me to the fact that everything is interconnected, our mind, body, and spirit, and that feeling our feelings is so important. And when I say that when we choose to ignore our emotions because we think that that makes the emotion go away, that could not be more false. We are definitely holding on to the emotion. We are keeping it stored in our body. And the way that that creates a blockage or stagnancy is not healthy. And it can end up impacting us in ways that surprise us. I never in my life thought that in my early 20s, I would have kidney stones. That experience also served as an example of how important it is to have emotionally mature and conscious partners who know how to healthily respond to their emotions, express their emotions, and also hold safe space for you and your emotions. It also served as an example of how important it is that we are able to distinguish what energy belongs to us and what energy does not belong to us, what emotions belong to us and what emotions don't belong to us. Are you holding on to emotions that don't belong to you? And are they creating density? Are they creating weight on your shoulders? So, my friends, all that to say, yes, it is so important that we feel our feelings because of so many reasons. And yes, this experience that I just shared with you definitely did also contribute to me finally fully allowing myself to feel my feelings and be grateful that I am allowing myself to feel my feelings, because I now know just how healthy and how healing that is. I think perhaps in the next episode between you and I, we'll get into why I am grateful to respond to emotions the way that I do. And we'll get more specific on how to quote unquote properly respond to our emotions and release the ones we've suppressed, which is essentially to allow the energy of our emotions to circulate and to flow. And by properly, I more so am referring to feeling our feelings without becoming them or identifying with them, because yes, that's possible. And yes, that matters. But all in all, my friends, the way that I see it, allowing ourselves to feel all the emotions this life grants us is the best way to live our lives. Do you really want to go your whole life without feeling? Do you really want to go your whole life having the tendency to suppress your feelings and responding to your feelings by ignoring them? And even then, I mean, that's quite impossible, because even if you did try to do that your whole life, you'd probably end up, or I mean, you will end up feeling some kind of pain or exhaustion from all the density of all the emotions you're holding in. Personally, I want to look back and be able to say, wow, I lived a beautifully emotional life, and I'm so grateful I felt it all. I'm so grateful I allowed myself to feel falling in love, to feel the inevitable heartbreak from it, to feel a dream come true and be utterly inspired by it, to feel grief because I cared for someone or something so deeply. All of it. And I'm so grateful I've awakened to the fact that allowing myself to feel the emotions that arise within me when they arise is incredibly healing. I'm so grateful I no longer see any emotion as a burden, and I now see it as a gift from this temporary, beautiful human life. Woo! Y'all, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it's moved you in a way that gets you reflecting on your own relationship with your emotions. And again, please drop a rating and or a review on Apple Podcasts. I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Peace and blessings and so much gratitude. Now go on about your day or night and allow yourself to feel, my friend.